Today I'm telling you about the books I read in April. I didn't read too many because I was super busy. And it looks like the beginning of this month I'll be super busy as well. The first book I read this month is Saga, Volume 3 by Brian K. Vaughan. I actually forgot to throw this into my April book haul because I'm dumb. But yeah, it's really good. If you guys don't know what Saga is a comic book, graphic novel story about two people who are two separate alien races, and they're in love and they have a child, and they're running away from the authorities because these races are supposed to be at war pretty much forever. So the next book I read is Dark Eden by Chris Beckett. It's a book about the 500 descendants of two astronauts who are living pretty much a Stone Age existence, waiting for people from Earth to come back and get them. This book was really, really, really good. The humans have like this sort of religion built around Earth and like everything from Earth. So the little like trinkets from Earth that their long ago parents had are still like touched and worshipped and revered pretty much, without actually it being called God. And a lot of interesting characters. This world is kind of really sexual, weirdly. Men are just pretty much around to help gather food and help breed more babies. There's a lot of interesting language stuff. A lot of the words got changed, like vehicle is vehicle. That's just one example. It's an interesting book, and I'm really glad I read it. It was an experience. That's what I can say. It was a really interesting experience, and I really liked it. Next book I read is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This is a really, really good book as well. This is about a half-elven, half-goblin son of an emperor, and he's the fourth son, so he doesn't really have any claim to any titles or lands. In fact, his father really didn't like his mother, so that he shipped them off to the countryside and didn't want anything to do with them. Then he gets woken up by his like guardian later to find out that his father and all three of his other sons died in an airship crash. So he is now emperor. He is not necessarily, like, he knows like all the standard protocols and stuff, but he definitely needs someone to help his way out, and nobody can help him because everybody doesn't think that he knows what he's doing. So he's very lonely, and this is a really interesting coming-of-age tale, and you grow to really love the main character, and whenever he puts, like, anyone in their place, you're just sitting there cheering for him the whole time. I give this one 5 out of 5 stars because it was just so good, and it was a really interesting, good read. The next book I read is a reread of Subreal by Garth Nix. I've never really given you a synopsis of Subreal. In Subreal, there is a kingdom called the Old Kingdom, split between England and this other world. In the Old Kingdom, the dead come to life, and there's magic that happens called the Charter, and there's this person called the Abhorsen, who is a necromancer who sends the dead back to where they're supposed to go. And the Abhorsen is Subreal's dad. Subreal has been sent over the wall to Ancestor to go to school. And as Subreal is waiting for her father, because he always like sends a projection of himself to like a charter rendition of himself to visit her, and so she's waiting for him and he doesn't show up. Then a dead thing comes by and basically gives her a message that Abhorsen is in danger. So she has to go over the wall, figure out everything that's going on, and meet this really awesome talking cat named Mogget, and learn how to become an Abhorsen. And it's a really interesting story. It's one of my favorite books like ever. And there's a reason I reread this is because Clariel, which is a book that's not a continuation but sort of a prequel, is coming out, like, I believe in November? I don't remember. It's coming sometime in the fall, and I'm really, really excited, so I figured I'd reread the series to get hyped up for it. The next book I read is Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. This is a story about a girl who goes into Oz from Kansas, but she is from our time, and she's kind of bullied at school. She has a really rough home life. She's dyed her hair pink and has a pink rat. So she's kind of the antithesis of what Dorothy was. She goes into Oz, and Oz is really, really messed up. Like, nothing is the way it should be. Everything's like weird, dark, and sinister. And so she's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And she ends up meeting like this really interesting new cast of characters, meets the old cast, and they are really freaky. And figures out a way to pretty much get rid of Dorothy, who is causing all of these problems. I really liked it. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. I will definitely be reading the next books that she brings in. It's also got a really interesting shout out to the books of Elfric Baum. A lot of the characters you meet in this book you wouldn't know if you just watched The Wizard of Oz. So I like that it kind of makes you, like, it doesn't make you have to read them, but it also, like, you don't know these characters unless you read this book and are told about them or have already read The Wizard of Oz and, like, all the Oz stories. So it's really cool. The next book I read is Glamour and Glass by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is a continuation of the Glamorous series. This is a sequel to Shades of Milk and Honey. Shades of Milk and Honey is a really good book. It's about basically Georgian England, and there's magic in it, and I can't really say very much about it other than it's Jane Austen meets really interesting magic. And this is just a sequel to it, so I won't go into what it's about because that would just spoil the first one for you. But it's really, really good. The next book I read is The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a really, really good book. I actually had been eyeing it at work for a long time, and then I got a gift card from my future father-in-law for my birthday, and I bought it, and it's really good. I am very glad that it is as good as I thought it would be. It's about this astronaut who is left on Mars because they think he's dead because there was a dust storm, an antenna broke off of one of their instruments and like pierced his suit. So they didn't see any life signs from him, and they just took off because if they stayed, they would have put themselves in danger. Then it turns out that the dude is alive, and so he has to figure out how to last and survive on Mars using his his science know-how. He ends up having to basically keep all of his biological functions to populate the dirt that he brought from Earth with bacteria to mix with the soil of Mars to grow potatoes and other plants. Then he also has to do some crazy ass science experiments that nearly end up killing him to make water so that he is able to stay alive and feed his plants. It's really, really good, really interesting. I was sitting there like having a blast the entire time. So I definitely gave it 5 stars. Next book I read is The Lies of Locke Lamora. This is a really interesting, fascinating swashbuckler. This is about a band of thieves called the Gentlemen Bastards, and these guys are trained from really young age how to be very gentlemanlike. They are basically con artists of the highest degree. You learn this in like the first chapter or so this is not a spoiler, but all of the thief guilds in this town city of Camor have this thing with the nobles called the Secret Peace. The Secret Peace is basically, you can steal from everybody but the people we control. You cannot steal from nobles, you cannot steal from, like, the city guard, you cannot steal from, like, people we control. The gist of the Gentlemen Bastards is they are trying to swindle everyone for what they own. So they dress up in elaborate costumes to pretend to be nobles and just run around wreaking havoc on the Secret Peace. And then stuff starts going down in the middle of the book, and then you're like, what? And it's really, 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 really good. I know that there's a read-along for this book going on this summer, so I'm very excited to see what they think of it because I really loved this book. The next book is probably the best book I read this month. It's The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord. This is a story loosely inspired by the 2006 tsunami, where most of the survivors were men and how that the loss of so many women affected them. This is the story of the Adiri, whose planet got poisoned by this other race of aliens, and how they are basically taking refuge on this one planet. And they have this one person, Grace, become their guide of sorts to try to find distant cousins of their specific race to breed and repopulate their species. This was a very fascinating book to read. It's also really small, so it didn't take me too long, but it was just rich and full of different cultures, and the Sadiri really reminded me of Octavia Butler's Aliens in the Lilith Bruce series, which is one of my favorite books series ever. I was having a really good time while reading it. I definitely gave it 5 stars, and I look forward to reading pretty much anything Karen Lord comes out with from now on, because oh my gosh, this was amazing. I have a lot of interesting books on my May TBR. Some of them I don't own yet, so I'll be linking them in the doobly-doo. First book I'm going to be reading is Boy Snowbird by Helen Oyeyemi. This is a book about a woman named Boy who becomes a stepmother for a girl named Snow, and she marries this guy and they have a child, and when the child comes out dark, finds out that the family she married into are actually African Americans who are very light-skinned so they can pass as white. And that sounded really fascinating to me, and I was really interested. I've read not very far into it just yet, but it's really good. It's also a beautiful cover, naked anyway. I don't have the thing because I'm borrowing it, but it's pretty enough that I'm probably going to own it if I do enjoy the book. Next book I'm going to read is The Emperor's Blades by Brian Staveley. This is a sneak peek into my May book haul. I just bought it. It is about 3 children of an emperor who has died. One of them is at a monastery. The other one is like training to be like a soldier, and the third one is a woman, and she's actually been appointed the some government position, and it's really interesting so far. I've only gotten like a few, like not even 20 pages in, and I really like it so far. It is going to be kind of high fantasy-ish because there are mythos and like gods and really interesting stuff. I read the appendices first sometimes just to get a grasp of what's going on, and they don't necessarily spoil things like, you know, the Lord of the Rings ones do. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to read it. The next book I'm going to read is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I have had this book for years and have not read it because I want to space out as much Octavia Butler as I possibly can because she won't be writing anymore. The cool part is, though, I found out like a week ago on Twitter that, not even a week ago, it was like a few days ago on Twitter, that they are going to release some of her early works as ebooks, and I freaked out because she is one of my most favorite authors. I'm going to do an entire video on why, and I'm also going to do reviews on like on some of her books. This one I haven't read, but I do know that it's about, it's a dystopian about a woman who is the daughter of a preacher who becomes kind of a leader of humanity or certain humans and creates her own faith. And it's really, like, the premise was interesting, and I really want to read it, and I'm really, like, excited that I'm finally going to read it because I love this author so much, and I just wish she was not dead. The next book I'm going to read this month is Who Fears Death by Nadia Korafor. This is a book about a girl who is the product of rape, and thus is shunned by her community, and how she kind of survives through that. Aside from that, I don't really know very much about it. I love Nadia Korafor's books, so I figured I might as well jump into this one. Next book I'm going to be reading is Galileos Daughter by Dava Sobel. This is a book about Galileo and his daughter. It's kind of a biography, memoir of sorts, from her letters. I've been trying to read a lot more nonfiction just because I read a lot of fiction, but I don't necessarily devote as much time as I should to nonfiction, so I want to change that. And this one seemed really interesting. I've had it on my shelf for a while and didn't pick it up, and I felt it was time to. The next book I'm going to be reading is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is a story about 2 people who are in love who get separated and then hopefully reunite. Other than that, I have no idea what it's about. I have heard Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk, and that's what made me want to read something by her, and this one was highly rated online. If I do end up liking this one, I'll most likely pick up Half of a Yellow Sun, which is her story, or her book about like civil war in Nigeria, and it sounds really interesting. I'm very excited to read this one. The next book I'm going to be reading is The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. This is a book about a boy called Oscar, and his last name is not Wow, by the way, and it's also interspersed with his mother's story of her life in Puerto Rico during the time of Trujillo. I've actually started reading this not too long ago, but then put it away for something else, which was a really dumb mistake because I really liked this book a lot, and so I want to continue reading it, so I'm just going to start over. This author has some really good talks online, and Oscar I relate to on a big level because he is like really into geeky things. He loves comic books, he loves to read, he wants to write like a big epic sci-fi book. And those are all things that I want to do, but he's also penalized for it because he is Latino, and in our culture, at least my culture, the culture of Mexican Americans, reading books and being into weird things is seen as acting white. And so it's basically the same for him. Everybody looks down on him because of all these cool things that he's into, and it's really sucky. So I really relate to his character in a very, very intimate way. The next book I'm going to be reading is The Throne of the Crescent Moon by Saladin Ahmed. This is a book about a ghoul hunter. It has jinns and it has like women who can turn into lions. It has all kinds of interesting magic, and I'm very interested in finishing it. I've actually started it already. I just need to finish it because it's really, really good. This author is awesome, and you should all read this book. That's all I have to say about that. The next book I'm going to be reading, I don't own yet. It's The Harlem Hellfighters by Max Brooks. It is the story of the 369th World War I African American unit. It's a graphic novel, and from what I've heard from other people, it's about how they kind of threw a lot of black soldiers in the front lines during this time period. And I really want to read it. It sounds really fascinating. And the next book I will hopefully be reading this month is Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. Weirdly enough, it was only published in the UK, so I'll have to order it from the book depository. Depending on shipping, I may get it this month, or I might get it next month sometime. But I'm very excited to read it. It's a sci-fi book she wrote about aliens, and she's always written about more magic, fantasy type of stuff, so I'm really interested in her delve into sci-fi. She said that it, like, on her posts and reviews, it is still kind of fantastical, but that's cool because magic and sci-fi should go together. See, those are the books I read in April, and those are the books I hopefully will read in May. If you like my videos, please subscribe. If you know of any cool editing software that doesn't suck, please let me know so that I can figure out how to use it and not waste your time by talking about books you can't see. And I will have more videos up soon. Bye!